The Man Behind the Newspapers. Story by Mr. Ink. Disclaimer. This is a work of fiction and should be treated as such. All the characters, businesses, places, events, and incidents in this book are the product of the writer's imagination. Roses you are to me, my love, that awaits my presence silently in the moonlight. For I shall dream about this day to be true, for I have been guilty of loving you. All I have to do is dream, and that dream will come true, but the only problem is I'm dreaming my life away too. For these tears that you have stepped on as you danced across the floor, has been in pain, my love. Thine hands are the feathers of a bird that moves gently with the wind whenever you pass. Your tempted lips touch mine as I am left to ponder. Where will I have my last breath, my love? When shall thy burden be set free? I shall rescue you from the arms of the night, and have you for myself, roses. It is I, the lonely lover that had stolen your heart from the brave knight that wants to kill me, and at last, my love has come along. The love of two known treasure hunters will rattle your heart with their rhythm as the story of a classical romance begins. Poetry of love will swallow your soul and bring you comfort, and the mystery of the treasure hunt will only get better. Act 1, Scene 1. A new boy walked into Mrs. Thompson's classroom nervously with his small backpack on his shoulders. It was Monday morning, the first day of school. The classroom was packed with noisy students greeting each other. They looked at the new student and gibbered to their friends. Mrs. Thompson, she hits the blackboard with a long wooden ruler. Everyone, please be quiet. She takes a deep breath. Okay, good morning everyone. All the students together, good morning, Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson, today in class we have a newcomer with us. She points at the new student. His name is James Simpson and he's from Beverly Hills. Anyway, today we are going to learn how to interpret poems. The first question is, what is a poem? Jame is 18 years old, he's just attending Justin High School. He puts up his hand. A poem is a particular way of writing, expressing thoughts and feelings in a way using a particular rhyming scheme or mostly free verse. Mrs. Thompson, if I say the knife was cold as ice, can you tell me what I mean by justifying your answer? Jame, yes. Mrs. Thompson, go ahead. Jame, a knife is compared with cold as ice possibly to state how dangerous it is. Literally, the knife is associated with cold as ice. Cold, in this case, means lack of warmth based on what was stated. A knife is sharp. The imagery that is created by the use of this simile is to indicate the effect the knife has on an object or thing, possibly a person, as it relates to crime. Mrs. Thompson, I must say, very good thinking and reasoning ability. Another one, if I said the night was red and the day was black. Please interpret this and justify your answer. Jame, red and black are symbolic of something. In this case, red is symbolic of bloodshed and black is symbolic of slavery on a whole base on the discriminatory society that they lived in. Mrs. Thompson, what makes you think that? Jame, this is because of two reasons. The color red most time in literature is symbolic of a bloodshed or an incident, or a description relating to some form of an unhappy ending. However, the black in this escalating racial society is symbolic of slavery, and in addition to this, racism. I'm just saying. My speculations are based on theories and reasons, Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson, okay, enough of that for today. Class, what do you think is a poem other than what James Simpson said earlier? Samuel and Jack were at the rear of the classroom having their own good time gibbering about the newcomer, Jame. They were the bullies of the class. Samuel had an inflated belly. He nibbling on a burger while talking to his friend Jack. He was the one that bribed Jack to give trouble and bullied students most of the time. Jack was the coolest of the boys in the classroom. He was with the hottest girl in the school, Rachel, the head cheerleader. Jack, he whispers in Samuel's ear. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Samuel, he nods his head. Yeah. Jack, are you ready? Samuel, he puts the burger on his bag. Hell yeah, let me just put this here. Jack, have you finished with that burger already? Samuel, he takes a bite of the burger. Yeah, I'm finished now. I am ready. Jack snuck up behind Jame and slowly opened his backpack. Samuel watched him and laughed. Jack put his hand in James' backpack quickly while some other students laughed softly. He screamed in pain with a rat trap on his hand. Jame giggled. Jack, flashing his hand. You bastard, you're gonna pay for this. Mrs. Thompson, she stops Jack from starting a fight with the new student. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Don't even think about it, young man. Jack, I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson, it won't happen again. Jack looked at the Jame with his piercing eyes like he wanted to kill him and whispered as he walked to his desk in embarrassment. Jack, to Jame, this isn't over yet, you're gonna pay for this later. Samuel lulled Jack on his shoulder and looked at Jame and started whispering. Jack's sister was at the rear of the class. She was known as the queen of the class. Her name was Jacqueline Edward. She moved to Norma's town recently with her stepfather, Rick. He was always drunk most of the time. Jacqueline, to her friends. I like him. He's just that person that is, you know. Sim, know what? Come on now, girl, let it out or else I'm gonna tell. Jacqueline, okay, he's special. Sim, what is so special about this guy? Sydney, girl, try to put your act together because if you don't, I'm taking him away from you. Sim, she pushes Sydney. You can't do that because she has a big crush on him. She whispers in Jacqueline's ear. So, you really like this guy, ugh? Mrs. Thompson, she looks at Jacqueline and her friends talking. She approaches them seriously. What the hell are you girls doing? Please pay attention and stop the chattering. Sim, sure, will do, Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson, she walks to the front of the classroom. Students, remember to carry your textbooks tomorrow. The bell rang and the students rushed to their next classes. Jack and Samuel walked past Jame and showed him weird facial expressions. Jacqueline smiled at Jame and exited the classroom. Jame remained in the classroom and talked to his teacher, Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson, why aren't you going to class, Jame? Jame, Mrs. Thompson, is just that I don't feel comfortable around these students. They make me feel like I'm not of this world. Mrs. Thompson, everyone is different from the next, Jame. Life is not fair, but you have to live with it one way or the other or flow with it. If you let it get the best of you, then you will be frustrated most of the time. Always remember that confidence comes with encouragement. Stop complaining and go to your class now. This is your first day at school, so it will be a little rough. Just take it easy, Jame. Jame, he takes up his backpack and smiles. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson, you're welcome. He exits the classroom and smashed into Jacqueline. Her books fell. He helped her up. Jame, I'm sorry about that. I didn't see you. Jacqueline, it's okay, I'm sorry too. So, what brings you here? Jame, I guess the thing that makes us who we are. Jacqueline, what's that? Jame, I don't know yet, but. Jacqueline, oh, my name is Jacqueline, but you can call me Sasha. So, what's your name? Jame, my name is Jame, but you can call me Crystal. Jacqueline, Crystal, that is cute. Jame, yeah, that's what they say, a boy like me with that nickname. Jame and Jacqueline got up slowly looking at each other. Jame, I like you, can I get your number? Jacqueline, yeah, 1-885-485-94341. Jame, he searches his backpack for a book and a pen. Just give me a sec, let me get something to write it on. He takes out a pen and a book, can you repeat? Jacqueline, yeah sure, 1-885-485-94341. Can you meet me after school? Jame, okay. Jacqueline and Jame walked off to their separate classes smiling. Jame entered his class. All the students looked at him as well as his new teacher. Jame sat beside Jack. He didn't have a choice because the only available seat was beside him. Jack, what's going on, smartass? Jame, tell me, you're the one in pain. Jack, you love to talk a lot, don't you? I bet you wouldn't dare to fight me now. Jame, what for? Ms. Douglas, to Jack, Jack, please pay attention to what I'm teaching and leave Jame alone. Jack, this isn't over yet, smart ass. Jame, you need to advance your vocabulary, you sound like a scratch record. Ms. Douglas, Jame, what was the story about in the book Racism? Jame, the story was a set of real events that happened in the 20th century. Critics may have believed that the blacks were inferior and were judged daily based on their skin tone. The story was based on a black American. He was a person that had a slightly split personality in him. He thought that if he could make things right, the nations would change and even become a better place. He wanted peace, love, comfort, and freedom. But at the end of the story, it could be recognized that he was dead. His final words were, "Help me, help me." Figuratively, he could not take what was happening anymore and finally gave in to his oppressors and suppressed freedom of speech. The events that occurred in the 20th century are still happening now as we speak in reality. Furthermore, help me made a strong reference to jealousy and betrayal as it relates to the black race betraying their own. When you are fighting for justice to save your own race, they are fighting against you to be led by people that will further enslave them. That will be all. Ms. Douglas, that was a good explanation. In fact, it was a professional explanation. Class was dismissed now. It was break time, and all the students were busy getting their lunches. Jame went into the bathroom while Jack and two of his friends from the football team followed him. As Jame entered the bathroom, Jack and his friends entered. Jack closed the door. Buy this ebook today and read the full version. The ebook is available in 3 formats: PDF, EPUB, and MOBI.